Have you ever trusted someone so much that a single secret could shatter it all? Imagine a billionaire widower, Nathan Parker, who thought he'd lost everything when his wife died, until a kind-hearted nanny, Grace Miller, brought warmth back to his son's life and maybe to his own. But when a single phone call makes Nathan doubt the only person who's made him feel alive again, he does something that changes everything. He follows her, and what he discovers that rainy night will break your heart and rebuild it in a way you never saw coming. Stay until the end to witness how one secret hidden for good turned into a love story that gave them all a second chance at hope. Nathan Parker's mansion perched high on a Seattle hill like a lonely lighthouse, its windows glimmering but empty inside. 3 years ago, cancer had stolen Emily, his wife, his best friend, the mother of his only son, Oliver. After the funeral, Nathan closed the doors, shut out the world, and let the silence settle like dust on fine marble. Oliver was just 4 back then, big brown eyes that mirrored his father's, but hollowed by grief. He stopped laughing. He flinched at hugs. He clutched a stuffed rabbit to sleep in a room far too big for one small boy. Nathan threw himself into work, drowning in real estate deals, board meetings, and carefully scripted philanthropy. No one got close. Not family, not friends. There weren't any left who tried. He hired help who didn't talk. Chefs, cleaners, chauffeurs. All efficient, all forgettable. Until Grace Miller knocked on the back door one rainy afternoon. She was younger than the other candidates. Her resume modest. Childhood education classes, volunteer stints, a stint caring for foster kids. But the moment she knelt on the polished floor, held Oliver's tiny hand, and whispered, "It's okay to be sad," Nathan felt a crack in the walls he'd built around his heart. For 6 months, Grace became a quiet heartbeat in that cavernous house. She cooked Oliver's favorite mac and cheese with extra cheese that oozed over the plate. She read books in silly voices until he giggled so hard his hiccups turned into laughter. She found the little boy who'd disappeared inside himself and coaxed him back out. Nathan noticed things he hadn't in years. The way Oliver's eyes sparkled when Grace promised, "I'll be here tomorrow." How her gentle humming drifted through the hallways like a lullaby. How she never asked for anything, no favors, no raises, no perks. But one night, as Nathan passed the kitchen for a glass of water, he heard Grace's voice. Quiet, strained, secretive. "I need the money soon. I'm trying. Please don't give up on me." He froze, the glass trembling in his hand. Money. That word had always been dangerous. Everyone wanted something from him eventually. And now Grace, the woman he'd begun to trust with his son's happiness, had a secret he didn't understand. At first, Nathan told himself it was nothing. Maybe a bill, maybe a family emergency. But every time Grace's phone lit up with an unknown number, she stepped out onto the back patio, away from the cameras. Voice hushed under the drizzling rain. His mind spun with dark possibilities. He replayed the words, "I need the money soon." What if she owed someone dangerous? What if she was using Oliver to get to him? Was he being paranoid or protective? One Thursday, Nathan caught her in the foyer. She was slipping on her worn sneakers, her canvas tote slung over one shoulder. "Grace," he called, voice low. She turned, ponytail brushing her shoulder. "Mr. Parker? You've been leaving early a lot. Is everything all right?" Her eyes didn't flinch, but her hand tightened on the tote strap. "My shift ended at 7, sir." Nathan stepped closer. "I heard you last night. On the phone." Grace's cheeks paled. "That was private." He hated how harsh he sounded. "I know, but you care for Oliver. He adores you. I need to know if you're in trouble." Grace's lips pressed into a thin line. "If you don't trust me, maybe you should find someone else to watch him." Her words landed like a slap. She turned, boots splashing through puddles as she disappeared into the night. Nathan stood on the grand stone porch, the drizzle wetting his hair, the porch light flickering like a heartbeat. Inside, the house felt emptier than ever. He poured himself a glass of scotch, stared through the floor-to-ceiling windows at the blackness beyond. It wasn't just about trust anymore. It was about Oliver, about Grace, about the fragile hope he'd started to believe in again. And tonight, he would find out the truth. Nathan's black SUV glided down the rain-slicked streets like a shadow chasing a secret. A block ahead, Grace's slim figure huddled at the bus stop, her tote clutched to her side like a shield. Nathan killed his headlights, heart pounding against the steering wheel. This felt like betrayal, like he was the monster lurking in the dark, spying on the only person who'd made this house feel like a home again. But the fear of losing Oliver, of losing the tiny spark of family he'd found again, screamed louder than his guilt. The bus lurched south, leaving behind the steel and glass towers of Seattle's skyline. Nathan followed, 2 cars back, windshield wipers beating out his anxiety in metronomic taps. Streetlights blurred past, tattoo parlors, pawn shops, boarded-up grocery stores. Grace stepped off at a cracked sidewalk lined with graffiti-tagged walls. She didn't look back once. Nathan killed the engine and sat, breath fogging the glass. Grace crossed the street under a flickering neon sign. Harbor Light Community Center. A faded mural of smiling kids peeling on the brick wall. Hope lives here. Inside, yellowed lights flickered to life as a silver-haired woman greeted Grace with a hug that lasted too long to be professional. Grace smiled, a real, warm smile Nathan hadn't seen since before the phone call. She opened her tote, unpacking books, construction paper, glitter glue. Nathan leaned forward, eyes stinging. Through rain-speckled windows, he watched Grace kneel on the scuffed linoleum floor, surrounded by children. Tiny shoes with holes, jackets 2 sizes too big. She read stories in that same soothing voice that had calmed Oliver's nightmares. She laughed when a toddler sneezed confetti of glitter across her sweater. She wrapped her own scarf around a boy's shoulders, tugged it snug under his chin. This wasn't a con. This wasn't theft. This was sacrifice. Grace wasn't hiding greed. She was hiding goodness. Nathan's shoulders sagged against the leather seat. The walls he'd built, the suspicion that had kept him safe all these years, what had it really protected him from? The truth was, Grace had given him back his son's smile, while she spent her nights giving hope to children who had nothing. He glanced at the pastry box on the passenger seat, leftovers from the mansion kitchen. On a whim, he scribbled a note. From someone who believes in you. Never stop. He tucked it under the box, slipped out into the drizzle, and left it by the community center's door. When he peeked back through the window, Grace was opening the box, the note trembling in her hand. She looked up at the door, confused, then pressed the paper to her heart. Nathan's chest tightened in a way he hadn't felt in years. The next morning, Grace arrived 10 minutes late, wet hair, flushed cheeks. Oliver ran straight to her, arms thrown around her waist. "Miss Grace, did you bring the bear book again?" He giggled. Grace looked up, her eyes meeting Nathan's across the foyer. Can we talk?" she asked, voice unsure. They stood by the kitchen island, Oliver humming as he colored dinosaurs at the table. "You left pastries," she said softly. "And the note." Nathan nodded. "You didn't have to hide this, Grace." She laughed once, sharp, sad. "People judge. They think volunteering means I'm distracted, or not serious enough to care for your son." "Grace." She shook her head, fingers drumming on the marble. "My mom used to say you can't pour from an empty cup, but these kids, Harbor Light, are my heart." Nathan stepped closer, voice rough. "You could have told me." I was afraid. She looked up, eyes brimming. Afraid you'd think less of me. Afraid you'd think I wanted your money. He flinched, remembering every time someone had wanted just that. You changed my son's life, he said hoarsely. You changed mine. Grace's laugh cracked. Then why didn't you trust me? The question was a blade. Nathan felt it sink deep. I'm trying, Grace. I want to be better than the man who checks security cameras and follows good people in the rain. She stared at him, really looked at him, for the first time since that night. Behind his eyes, she saw the same fear she carried. Fear of needing someone, fear of being left, fear of not being enough. Oliver tugged at Grace's sleeve. Miss Grace, can you stay tonight? Until I fall asleep. She cupped his cheek, tears shimmering. I'll always come back, buddy. That's a promise. Nathan wanted to believe that was enough. But promises, he'd learned, sometimes break. That weekend, Nathan spent hours researching Harbor Light. He found the cracked pipes, the broken furnace, the donations that trickled in too slow to cover rent. By midnight, through a shell company, he wired $50,000 to keep the lights on. No name attached, no recognition needed, just the hope that Grace's secret would never have to be hidden again. But sometimes even good deeds grow thorns. When Nathan offered her a new position, household manager, more pay, fewer hours, Grace's smile froze. I can't, she whispered. Why? You deserve this. Because if I take this, if I rely on your charity, her voice cracked, then I'm just a girl with a sad story who needs saving. He reached for her hand, but she pulled it back. I need to do this on my own, or I'll never feel like I belong anywhere. Nathan's heart split in two, half that wanted to hold her, half that knew he had to let her go. From that day on, the house felt colder again. Grace still read to Oliver, still packed his lunch, but her laugh no longer echoed in the hallways. She came, she left, like a ghost at sunrise. Nathan lay awake at night, the empty space beside him bigger than ever. One Wednesday morning, Grace knocked on the study door. Nathan sat behind his heavy oak desk, his laptop open but forgotten. Mr. Parker, she said, voice steady. I need to talk to you. He knew. Somehow, he'd known this moment was coming. I'm giving my notice. The words hit like a blow to the ribs. Oliver needs stability, she continued, eyes shining but unflinching. I'll stay 2 more weeks. I'll train someone new. Nathan wanted to say don't go, wanted to promise her the moon, but he could see it in her shoulders. She needed to do this. For herself, for the kids, for the girl she used to be. That night, Nathan sat alone at his desk. He pulled out his father's old stationery, the cream pages smooth under his hand. He wrote slowly, carefully, a letter to the scholarship committee of a foundation he'd once funded quietly. He told them about Grace Miller, how she taught a grieving boy to laugh, how she rebuilt a broken home, how she deserved to chase every dream she'd been too afraid to claim. He didn't sign his name. It didn't matter. 2 weeks later, Grace opened her mailbox outside Harbor Light. Inside was a thin envelope, a letter, a scholarship, a future. She pressed the paper to her lips, tears slipping free. She knew exactly who had done this and why. Spring crept in, the city thawing under soft sunlight. On a Saturday, Nathan brought Oliver to Harbor Light's new community garden. He found Grace kneeling beside a little girl, showing her how to plant sunflower seeds in paper cups. When she stood and saw him, their eyes locked. 2 people who had once been strangers, now bound by a single promise, hope. They sat together on a bench while Oliver ran circles around the flower beds. I was wrong, Nathan said quietly. Grace smiled. Me too. He reached for her hand. This time, she didn't pull away. Months later, A harbor-like gala sparkled under strings of golden lights. Grace stood at the podium, her voice strong as she thanked the donors, the parents, the volunteers. Nathan sat at the front with Oliver, beaming. When she finished, he walked onto the stage, took her hand, and knelt, one knee on the polished wood, the whole room holding its breath. Grace Miller, you didn't just save my son. You saved me. You taught me trust isn't weakness. It's the bravest thing we can give. Will you marry me? Will you be our home? Oliver's voice squeaked through the microphone, giggling. Say yes, Miss Grace. Grace laughed through tears. Yes. 1,000,000 times yes. Applause thundered. Glasses clinked. Hope bloomed. Sometimes, people who hide the most light are the ones who've been told they don't deserve it. Kindness kept secret can heal wounds we never speak of. And when trust grows where fear once lived, even the loneliest house can become a family again. If you believe in second chances, in kindness that changes lives, and love that conquers fear, subscribe to Soul-Stirring Stories for more true-to-heart tales like this one. Your support fuels stories that remind us hope is never truly lost, and the light we give to others always finds its way back to us.